The email arrived at 3:04 p.m. Family decision, just 2 words, no greeting, a spreadsheet attached. You're banned from the wedding, but transfer $60,000 in 14 days. I sent back exactly $1 with the memo. Installment 1, pending contract review. They don't know my grandmother left me something stronger than money, a justice restoration fund with its own rules. If you want to know how their dream wedding became a public hearing, keep listening. My name is Noelle Archer. I am 34 years old, and I am a senior risk analyst at Granite Ridge Capital. My job in Denver is to find the cracks in a system before they collapse a portfolio. I identify liabilities. I stress test foundations. I look at a beautiful, glossy proposal and find the single, fatal assumption hidden in the footnotes. I am, by nature and profession, skeptical. It's why I'm good at my job. It's why my family has always found me so disappointing. The email from my mother, Margaret Archer, had the subject line, family decision. It was clean, corporate, and utterly devoid of emotion. Like a press release announcing layoffs, there was no Dear Noelle, no honey, just the immediate, sterile execution. After careful consideration regarding the overall harmony of Tessa's upcoming celebration, it read, "We have all decided it is best if you do not attend the wedding. We have all decided," the collective we, that always meant my mother had issued a decree and my father had silently acquiesced. Tessa, my younger sister, was likely just a passenger in this decision, as she always was. The email itself was a blow, but it was the attachment that stopped my breathing, a digital paper cut. It was an Excel file. Tessa's celebration final budget. My cursor hovered. A small, trembling arrow. I clicked. It was not a budget. It was an invoice. Every line item was meticulously detailed, each cost rounded to a clean, offensive number. Ravenscroft Conservatory Venue. Deposit, $22,000. Catering package, 200 guests, $19,000. Floral arrangements and decor, $8,000. 7-day honeymoon package, sandals, St. Lucia, $11,000. It went on. The lighting, the string quartet, the embossed napkins. At the bottom, in a bold, merged cell, was the total, $60,000. And beneath that, a single line added in the body of the email, a postscript of pure distilled audacity. You should be grateful you can still contribute financially, even though you won't be attending. Grateful. The air in my condo felt too thin. I looked at the Gantt chart for my latest project on my second monitor. I looked at the skyline of Denver, solid and real. Then I looked back at the email. This was not a request for help. This was not a plea from a family struggling to pay for a wedding. This was a demand for payment. It was an extortion. My first instinct, the old Noelle instinct, was to call, to scream, to ask why, to demand an explanation for the banishment, to point out the insanity of the bill. That was the response they wanted. They wanted tears. They wanted a fight. A fight would confirm their narrative that I was difficult, unstable, jealous. A fight would give them leverage. My training as an analyst took over. Emotion is a liability. Reaction is a risk. Data is the only ground truth. I opened my online banking portal. I initiated a new transfer. I typed in Margaret Archer's account number. I typed in the amount, $1, in the memo line, where they would be forced to see it. I typed, Installment 1, pending contract review. I hit send. It was a digital timestamp, a legal breadcrumb, a quiet, clear message. I am not your asset to be liquidated. I minimized the email. I did not respond. I did not call. I created a new, encrypted folder on my secure drive. I labeled it Project Restoration. I saved the email. I saved the spreadsheet. I exported them as PDFs, capturing the metadata, the exact time they were sent. I went through my phone. I screenshotted every passive-aggressive text from my mother for the last 6 months, every Venmo request from Tessa for brunch or nails, every missed call from my father, Daniel Archer, followed by a text that said, "Your mother is upset." I saved every one. I logged the calls. I created a timeline. This was not grief. This was not sadness. This was the cold, clarifying click of a tumbler falling into place. This was a hostile takeover attempt, and I was about to conduct a full forensic audit of my own family. My hand was steady as I dialed my bank's priority line. Granite Ridge Capital. This is Noelle Archer. I need a full review of all accounts, cards, and lines of credit associated with my Social Security number. Yes, everything. I suspect unauthorized activity. The banker was efficient. Ms. Archer, you have your primary checking and savings, your mortgage, and your high-yield investment account. Go back further, I said, pacing my living room. Way back, anything from when I was a minor, anything co-signed. A pause, the sound of typing. Ah, here it is. It's an old one. A Visa card. Opened when you were 18. It's still active. My blood went cold. It's what? Yes, it has a very low limit, but it's active. The primary address for statements was changed about 12 months ago. It's now going to an address in Colorado Springs. My parents' address. I need the last 12 months of statements, emailed, now, and then I want you to freeze that card. Hard freeze, no transactions, in or out. Right away, Ms. Archer? The PDF landed in my inbox 3 minutes later. I opened it. The first charge was not for $60,000. It was smaller, insidious. January. Maison Delacroix Bridal, $8,300. February. Ravenscroft Conservatory, $5,000 deposit. March. Flights to St. Lucia, $2,400. April. Celestial Catering Services, $3,000 deposit. On and on it went. Small-scale charges, all meticulously kept just under the $10,000 mark that might trigger a fraud alert. They were not just planning to send me the bill. They had been using me as the bank all along. The $60,000 Excel sheet was not an invoice for the future. It was the balance due on a tab I never knew I was running. They had been charging the deposits, the down payments, the initial installments for my sister's wedding to a card I got for gas and textbooks 16 years ago. A card I had forgotten existed. A card they had apparently kept, like a secret weapon, waiting for the day they needed it. The $60,000 demand was not just a bill, it was the cover-up. They were trying to get me to willingly pay the full amount so they could cover their tracks, pay off the card, and erase the evidence of their fraud. I looked at the email again. You should be grateful. I stared at the family decision. This was not a sudden, emotional rejection. This was a calculated business move. I was the asset that had become a liability. They had extracted what they needed, and now they were cutting me off, banning me from the event I had apparently paid for, all while sending me the final bill for my own execution. This was not a family contribution. This was a plan. I closed the bank statement. I opened a new document in my project restoration folder. I began to list the discrepancies. The charge from Maison Delacroix Bridal was $8,300. The Excel sheet listed bridal attire at $11,000. The catering deposit was $3,000. The spreadsheet demanded $19,000. They were not just stealing, they were skimming. I looked at my reflection in the dark monitor. My face was calm. The shock had passed, leaving behind a terrible, clarifying quiet. The kind of quiet I feel right before I find the critical flaw in a hostile entity's financials. My mother wanted me to beg. My father wanted me to pay. My sister wanted me to be invisible. I would not be begging. I would not be paying. And I was about to become the most visible thing in their lives. My attitude was set. No more phone calls trying to get them to love me. No more texts pleading my case. No more seeking their approval. The audit had begun, and I was going to get my dollar's worth. The credit card was frozen. The 12 months of statements were downloaded, time-stamped, and saved as Exhibit A in Project Restoration. But freezing the card was containment. It wasn't a strategy. A risk analyst doesn't just stop the bleeding. They find the source of the wound. How had they done it? How had a card I got at 18, a card that should have expired a decade ago, suddenly become their primary line of credit for my sister's wedding? I called the fraud department hotline again. I got a different agent, someone patient. Ms. Archer, I see the freeze is in place. We are flagging these charges. I have a different question, I said, my voice flat, holding the phone between my shoulder and ear as I typed. That card, I need to know the date it was reactivated and the authorization method used to change the statement address. The typing on his end was quiet. Okay, I see it. The card was moved from dormant to active status. 4 months ago, the address was changed on the same day. 4 months ago. The date struck me like a physical blow. It wasn't a random date. It was the weekend I drove down to Colorado Springs, the weekend of the Great Will Update. My father, Daniel Archer, had summoned me. It was all very formal. He had inherited a small sum from a distant aunt, and it required, in his words, getting our ducks in a row. I remembered walking into his study. The room smelled of mahogany and old paper, a curated performance of generational wealth we did not actually possess. My mother, Margaret, was there, holding a sheaf of papers. Tessa was there, looking at her phone, bored. Noelle, good. You're here, my father had said, gesturing to the heavy oak desk. Just some standard updates, power of attorney, healthcare directives, family standards. A thick stack of documents waited, organized with neat yellow tabs. Sign here. Initial here. I did it. I trusted it. It was, as my father said, the standard. I was the responsible eldest daughter, the one who worked in high finance, the one who understood these things. I signed the POA. I initialed the healthcare directive. I signed where the yellow tabs told me to sign, my pen moving quickly, wanting the performance to be over so I could get back to Denver. I had been an idiot. I had been a trusting, compliant, familial idiot. Sir, I said to the bank agent, my voice dangerously calm. What authorization did you receive? Was it verbal? Was it online? No, Ms. Archer. It was a physical form, mailed in. We have a scanned copy. It's a cardholder reactivation and cosigner access form. It appears to be signed by you. And the address change? It's on the same form. It states that, for convenience, all statements should be routed to the cosigner address. That's your parents' address. For convenience, the word was a slap. I need a copy of that form, I said. I need it 5 minutes ago. I can email the scan to you now. Ms. Archer, it's attached to your file. The email chimed. I clicked. There it was, a standard bank form, and stapled to the back of it, as supporting documentation, was a single, terrifying page. The letterhead was just our family name, the Archer family. The title was Family Contribution Agreement. I read the single paragraph. It was written in the worst kind of pseudo-legal nonsense, the kind a desperate man writes after watching a season of courtroom dramas. It stated that I, as the eldest beneficiary, agreed that my income, being the most substantial, would be used to support and maintain the family's ceremonial obligations and social standing, including but not limited to weddings, anniversaries, and other significant milestones. It was a financial suicide pact. And at the bottom, there was a signature, my name, Noelle Archer. I opened my passport. I opened the scanned copy of my mortgage application. I put all 3 signatures side by side on my 40-inch monitor. My real signature has life. It has speed. The N is sharp. The L is a quick, upward slash. The signature on the agreement was dead. Any analyst, any document examiner, could see it. The pressure was too uniform. The slant was too perfect. The spacing between the N and the O was hesitant. It was a trace. It was a forgery. It was a meticulous, patient, damning piece of fraud. They had used the real signatures I provided on the power of attorney forms that same day as their template. They had practiced. They had traced my name onto their fabricated agreement and sent it to the bank as proof that they had a right to my money. This was not a misunderstanding. This was not a family dispute. This was a conspiracy. My hands were shaking now, not with fear, but with a cold, distilled rage. I saved the file. Exhibit B. Now the statements, the charges. Maison Delacroix Bridal, $8,300. I picked up my phone. I Googled the name. A high-end boutique in the Springs. I dialed the number. A cheerful voice answered. Maison Delacroix, this is Chloe. Hello, I said, pitching my voice to sound casual, friendly. I'm just calling to check on an order. It's for my sister, Tessa Archer. Oh, Tessa. Yes, such a beautiful bride. Let me pull up her file. I heard the clacking of a keyboard. Yes, I see it. The Serafina gown. It's in final alterations. Paid in full. Wonderful, I said. My mother was handling the details, and I just wanted to be sure. She used my card for it, and I'm just reconciling my statements. Oh, yes, your mother, Margaret, right? She was so sweet, Chloe gushed. She handled everything. She brought in your card and a photocopy of your driver's license to keep on file. She said you wanted the payment to be a surprise for Tessa. So decisive. It was so lovely. A photocopy of my ID. I remembered, 2 years ago. My mother asking for a copy of my license, just in case of emergency, to put in the family safe. Another piece of the trap, set years in advance. She is amazing, I said, my voice like honey. So, just to confirm for my records, that was $8,300 on my visa? That's correct, Chloe said. A truly generous gift. Thank you. Chloe, you've been a huge help. I hung up. I marked Maison Delacroix on my spreadsheet. Note. Clerk Chloe confirms Margaret Archer presented photocopied ID and credit card. I downloaded the full, itemized, 12-month statement history for the ghost card. I exported it. I spent the next 3 hours cross-referencing every charge on that visa with every line item on the $60,000 invoice they had emailed me. The pattern was unmistakable. Ravenscroft Conservatory. Charge on visa, $5,000. Amount on invoice, $22,000. Celestial Catering. Charge on visa, $3,000. Amount on invoice, $19,000. Floral. Charge on visa, $1,200. Amount on invoice, $8,000. They were not just stealing from me. They were using my stolen card to pay the deposits, and then sending me a grotesquely inflated invoice for the total, planning to pocket the difference. This was not just identity theft. This was wire fraud. This was a multi-layered, amateur hour but still lethal financial crime. They weren't just trying to make me pay for the wedding. They were trying to profit from it. My phone buzzed on the desk. It was the family group chat. My mother. Noelle, I have not received a response to the celebration budget. The vendors need their final payments. When are you transferring the $60,000? I looked at the message. I looked at the spreadsheet on my screen, the one detailing their fraud, their forgery, their blatant, astonishing theft. When are you transferring the $60,000? I stared at the text until the screen went dark. I did not reply. I let the silence be my answer. I picked up my phone and made one more call. Law Offices of Elena Durand. Hello, I said. My name is Noelle Archer. I need to book a consultation with Ms. Durand. It's regarding a case of familial financial abuse. Yes, I have documentation. I have spreadsheets. I have exhibits. My consultation with Elena Durand left me with a clear, cold path. We had identity theft, wire fraud, and forgery. We had a strong civil case and, potentially, a criminal one. The legal machine required a retainer. A 5-figure sum, just to begin the depositions. It was a war I could fight. A war I would likely win. But it felt like their game. It was a fight about money, conducted with money, to get back money. It was a barren, scorched earth kind of victory. That night, I did not sleep. I sat in my office, the project restoration folder glowing on my monitor. I had all the exhibits of their crime, but I felt a profound lack of strategy. My mother and father operated on a battlefield of shame, obligation, and emotional extortion. Elena Durand operated on a battlefield of motions, statutes, and billing hours. I was looking for a third way. I was looking for my grandmother. Maeve Archer had been the anomaly in our family. While my parents curated an image of success, Maeve cultivated a garden. While they collected status symbols, she collected people. She was warm. She was steel. And she had seen all of us. Truly seen us. From the moment we were born. She had been my only ally, and she had died 8 years ago, leaving me a small, locked wooden box and a single key. My parents had been furious. They had expected a significant inheritance. Instead, they received a polite letter from her executor stating her estate was being transferred, in its entirety, to a private trust. To me. She left the box. Inside, there was no money. There was a pewter locket, a collection of her favorite poems, and a single, unlabeled USB drive. I had not looked at it in years. I found the box in my closet, behind my good luggage. I sat at my desk and slid the USB drive into the port. A single video file appeared. I clicked it. Maeve's face filled the screen. She was not in a hospital bed. She was in her garden, the sun at her back, making her silver hair a halo. She looked right at the camera, right at me. "Hello, Noelle," her voice said, as clear as if she were in the room. It was not a will, it was a letter. "If you are watching this, it is because you are in a storm, and you are looking for an anchor. I cannot leave you money, my dear, not in the way they understand it." She smiled, a small, sad smile. "Money, given to you, would simply be one more thing for them to take. They are takers. Noelle, your mother, your father, they are hollow, and they will try to fill themselves with you, with your time, with your success, and with your bank account." My breath hitched. She had known, 8 years ago. She had seen this day coming. "So I left you something better," she continued, her voice firming up. "I left you a set of rules, and I left you the tools to enforce them." She explained, her estate, every dollar she had, went into a private trust, the Maeve Archer Restoration Fund. It was not for me. It was not for anyone in the family. It was a community trust, managed by an independent third party. "The trustee is Nora Whitcomb," Maeve said. "You remember Nora, from the Oaklight Community House, the place we volunteered? I remembered, the soup kitchen, the after-school program, the one place in Colorado Springs my mother refused to set foot in, calling it unseemly. The fund's purpose is simple," Maeve said, leaning closer. "It is to restore, to repair, to make whole, and Noelle, it has one very specific, very binding provision. I call it the Community Harm Clause." My analyst brain clicked into place. I sat up straight. "Our family name," Maeve said, her voice laced with a sadness I had never heard before, "has been used as a shield for a long time. It has been used to imply dignity, charity, and honor. Your father, especially, loves to use that name." She was right. Daniel Archer was on the finance committee at his church. He was on the board of a local golf club. He always spoke of the Archer reputation. "The Community Harm Clause," Maeve explained, "is triggered if the Archer name, or any individual in our family, is found to have used the name of a public or community organization for personal gain, tax fraud, or reputational leverage." I stopped. I rewound the video. Tax fraud. My mind flew back. Christmas, 2 years ago, my father, holding court, wine glass in hand, complaining about his tax burden. "Of course," he'd said with a wink. "We give more than our share to charity. The write-offs this year are excellent. That community house Maeve was so fond of. We are practically its biggest benefactors." At the time, I had felt a flicker of pride. It was the first good thing I'd heard him do. Now, I felt sick. "If that clause is triggered," Maeve said on the screen, "you, Noelle, and only you, are given signatory authority over the fund, but not for yourself. The rules were clear. The fund's money could not be used for personal enrichment. It could not be used for revenge. It could not be used to pay my legal fees. It could only be used for restoration. You can hire forensic accountants, she said, as if reading my mind. You can hire independent auditors. You can pay back any victim, any small business, any person harmed by the family's actions. You can fund a public event to set the record straight, to restore the community's good name. You restore, Noelle. You do not destroy. The video ended. She smiled. They gave you a name, my dear, but I am giving you a backbone. Grace has a spine. Never forget it. The screen went dark. I sat in the silence for a full 10 minutes. My parents had stolen from me. They had forged my name. They had banned me from my sister's wedding and sent me a bill for $60,000. They thought they were playing a game of chicken, a game of emotional blackmail. They had no idea I was about to change the entire game. I picked up the phone. It was late, but I knew Nora Whitcomb was a night owl. Oaklight Community House, Nora speaking. Nora, it's Noelle Archer, Maeve's granddaughter. Her voice warmed instantly. Noelle, my goodness, child, it has been too long. How are you? I'm in a situation, Nora, and I need to ask you a question. It's about my grandmother's fund. The warmth receded, replaced by the crisp efficiency of the woman who ran a community center on a shoestring. I see. The community harm clause? You know about it. Of course, I'm the trustee. I have waited 8 years, hoping that call would never come. What has happened? My parents, I said. My father, Daniel Archer. For the last several years, I believe he has been claiming significant charitable donations to Oaklight. Donations I am almost certain he never made. There was a heavy sigh on the other end of the line. I was afraid of this, Nora said. He sent our office a request for a tax receipt every December for the last 4 years. We sent back a letter each time stating we had no record of a donation. He never responded, but I always wondered. That's it, then, I said. He had used their name. He had used Maeve's legacy. He had committed tax fraud using their reputation, all to save a few $1,000s and puff up his own image. Nora, I need to activate the fund. The rules are very strict, Noelle. I know, I said, looking at the USB drive in my hand. It's not for revenge. It's for restoration. I need to hire an independent forensic accounting team to audit my father's claims. And I have a list of wedding vendors, small businesses, florists, caterers, a bridal shop. They are victims in this too. I need to find out how much they are really owed and make them whole. That is exactly what the fund is for, Nora said, her voice full of a sudden, fierce energy. I will email you the disbursement request forms. You have the authority. You set the budget. Maeve trusted your judgment. So do I. We hung up. The email arrived a minute later. I opened the PDF. Request for disbursement. I signed it. I requested an initial operating budget of $50,000. Not for me, for the project, for restoration. I was not just an analyst fighting for her own money anymore. I was the executor of my grandmother's will. My parents thought they were just stealing from their difficult daughter. They had no idea they had just triggered a community audit, funded by a ghost. My goal was no longer to win a lawsuit. My goal was to protect the community my grandmother loved, to clean the Archer name, not by hiding the dirt, as my father did, but by blasting it clean with the truth. And Tessa, my sister, she was collateral damage in their war. I would not, could not, let this destroy her. My goal had to be to protect the community. But in doing so, I also had to find a way to save my sister from the grifters she was marrying into. I would not be their victim. I would be their auditor. The Maeve Archer Restoration Fund gave me more than just money. It gave me leverage. It shifted my perspective from victim to investigator. I was no longer an angry daughter. I was the administrator of a trust, and I had a fiduciary duty to find the truth. The first checks I cut from that fund were not for lawyers, but for auditors. My first call was to Elena Durand, my new lawyer. Noelle, she said, her voice crisp through the speakerphone. Your retainer cleared, but this new development, the fund, it changes things. It gives us a public interest angle. It's cleaner. It's not about being cleaner, I said, looking at the spreadsheet of my family's fraud. It's about being more thorough. The $60,000 invoice isn't the problem. It's the symptom. I'm not just defending myself against a bill. I'm building a case against a system. Then you need more than just me, Elena said. Suing your parents for fraud is messy, exposing a conspiracy. That requires a team. I have 2 people. They're expensive. They're sharks, and they are the best. The fund can handle expensive, I said. Are they good? They're surgical, Elena replied. Meet us at my office, tomorrow, 10 a.m. The next morning, I walked into Elena Duran's high-rise office. It was the kind of place that smelled like old money and new technology. Elena, sharp in a steel gray suit, was waiting. With her were 2 people who looked like they had just walked out of 2 entirely different movies. The man was in his late 60s, with a rumpled tweed jacket, circular glasses, and the perpetually exhausted look of a bloodhound. He was nursing a lukewarm coffee in a paper cup. The woman was in her 30s, dressed in black moto boots, tactical pants, and a leather jacket. Her hair was in a tight braid, and she was scrolling through a tablet with terrifying speed. Noel Archer, meet your team, Elena said, gesturing. This is Harold Benton. He spent 30 years at the IRS. He's the man who finds the decimal point that brings down an empire. Harold grunted, pushing his glasses up his nose. Numbers don't lie, Ms. Archer. People do. And these people, he tapped a copy of my family's Excel sheet, are very chatty. And this, Elena continued, is Sloan Rivera, private investigator. Her specialty is wedding and event fraud. She finds the people the numbers are lying about. Sloan didn't look up from her tablet. It's a growth industry, she said, her thumb swiping. Love makes people stupid. Con men make them broke. Elena pointed to the large conference room screen. I've given them the files. Harold, you're up. Harold shuffled to the screen and plugged in his laptop. My spreadsheet appeared, but it was now covered in red ink annotations. This isn't a budget, Harold began, his voice a dry rasp. It's a work of fiction, a bad one. Your parents and the fiancé are sloppy. They're greedy. That's good for us. He pointed to the screen. I built a timeline, the deposit for the Ravenscroft Conservatory. Per your ghost visa statement, was $5,000, paid in January. The invoice they sent you asks for $22,000. That's a $17,000 discrepancy. They're padding the bill, I said. No, child, Harold said, adjusting his glasses. They're not just padding, they're double-dipping and then inventing. I called the venue. Their largest, most expensive weekend package is $15,000, total, for everything. They've never had a booking for $22,000. The number is pure fantasy. He moved to the next line. Catering. Your card paid a $3,000 deposit to Celestial Catering. Your invoice demands $19,000, but look at the date. The deposit was paid. Then, 2 weeks later, another deposit was paid to a different caterer. Mountain View Provisions, for $2,000, from the same card. They couldn't make up their minds? I asked. No, Harold said. They're booking multiple vendors for the same service, paying small deposits on your card, and creating a paper trail of costs that they are rolling up into one giant, fictitious bill. They're building a fake invoice from real and fraudulent parts. It's an architecture of theft. Sloan Rivera finally spoke, spinning her tablet around for us to see. Speaking of architecture, meet Gavin Pierce, the groom. On her screen was a photo of a man who looked like a catalog model, all perfect teeth and vacant blue eyes. He was standing next to my sister, Tessa. Gavin Pierce, Sloan said, is not a financial advisor as his bio claims. He is the sole proprietor of a lovely little LLC called Aurora Lux Events, registered 6 months ago, right before he proposed. He's the wedding planner? I was floored. He's planning his own wedding? He's billing for his own wedding, Sloan corrected. Aurora Lux Events has no employees, no website, and its registered address is a POO box in Boulder. Before that, he had Aspen Elite Services, went bankrupt. Before that, Utah Bridal Dreams, also bankrupt. Both left a trail of very angry brides and very unpaid vendors. Sloan swiped. A new screen appeared. It was an Instagram page. Rocky Mountain Dream Wedding. It had 20,000 followers. The photos were stunning. Sun-drenched mountain vistas, exquisite table settings, and a beautiful, laughing bride. This is his marketing, Sloan said. He's positioning this as a major influencer wedding. He's using it to launch his new company. I stared at the photos. The lighting was perfect. The bride was radiant. But that's not Tessa, I said, pointing. That's not my sister. Nope, Sloan said. That's a model named Kenzie. I checked the metadata. This isn't a wedding. It was a 4-hour portfolio shoot at a studio in Boulder. He paid the model in cash. He's faking his own wedding album to build a brand. Elena Durand, who had been listening silently, finally spoke. So he's a small-time grifter. He's getting bolder, Sloan said. He thinks this wedding is his big score. He's using Noelle's stolen card to pay the deposits, getting vendors to commit. But I dug deeper. I called the vendors, not as me, of course. I called as a competing planner checking on availability. She brought up a new file. It was a scan of a contract. This, she said, is the show contract. This is from Celestial Catering. It's the one they gave to Gavin, showing a price of $19,000 for 200 guests, the one he used to justify the line item on your invoice. She swiped. An identical contract appeared, but with different numbers. And this, she said, is the real contract, the one the caterer's manager emailed me when I inquired about his corporate rates. It shows a booking for 50 guests. Total price, $4,500. And a handwritten note at the bottom. Client Gavin P. To provide final guest count. Pledged social media exposure in exchange for rate reduction. I felt the room tilt. 50 guests. 50 guests, Harold repeated, his eyes gleaming. But the invoice says 200. Sloan tapped her pen on the table. I got a copy of the invitation list from the bridal shop. Chloe, the clerk, she was very chatty. 200 names, just like the invoice. So I started running them. Running them? I asked. Social security numbers, public records, basic life signs? Sloan said, of the 200 names on that list, 130 of them are ghosts. They're names from old phone books. They're addresses that don't exist. He padded the guest list with over 100 fake people to justify the 200-person catering bill. The sheer, breathtaking audacity of the plan settled over the room. Let me summarize, I said, the analyst in me taking over. Gavin and my parents are faking a 200-person influencer wedding. They're using my stolen card to pay the real, discounted deposits for a 50-person event, I continued. They're sending me a fake, inflated invoice for a 200-person event, based on fake contracts and a fake guest list. And when I pay the $60,000, I concluded, they will pay off the real smaller bills, probably around $20,000 total, and Gavin and my parents will pocket the $40,000 difference. And Gavin gets a free luxury wedding to launch his new fraud-based career, Sloan finished. And you get banned so you're not there to see the 50 guests and ask, where is everybody? Elena stood up and walked to the window. This is no longer a family dispute over a credit card. This is a criminal conspiracy to commit fraud. Harold Benton closed his notebook. Our objective has changed. We're no longer focused on just the one invoice. Sloan Rivera cracked her knuckles. Our target is the entire system. We need to prove the existence of the dual contracts, the fraudulent guest list, and the link between Gavin's LLC and the stolen funds. We don't just get Noelle's money back, Elena said, turning to face me. We use the Maeve Archer Fund to dismantle their entire operation. We protect the vendors he's trying to scam. We protect the community from his tax fraud. And She gave a small, grim smile. We protect your sister from marrying a professional con artist. So what's our first move? I asked. Not confrontation, Elena said. Discovery. We have the what. We need the who and the how. We need to find the weak link. And I'm betting it's not Gavin. And it's not your mother. It's the person in the middle. The wedding planner, I said. The wedding planner, Sloane confirmed. The one he's forcing to write the dual invoices, Vanessa Hart. We don't scare her. We save her. Project Restoration was no longer just an audit. It was a heist. And we had our team. Sloane Rivera was supposed to track down Vanessa Hart, the wedding planner. But before she could even deploy, the weak link broke on its own. My phone lit up at 9:30 p.m., a text from an unknown number. Is this Noelle Archer? I typed back one word. Yes, this is Vanessa Hart, the planner for your sister. I've been following your instructions on the invoices, but I can't do this. We need to meet. Tonight. My heart hammered. Following my instructions? That's what Gavin called you. The hidden sponsor. Please, I have a kid. I can't be part of this. There's a 24-hour diner off the I-25, the Peak side. Can you come now? I was in my car in 3 minutes. I texted Elena the address. Going in. Send Sloane. Elena's reply was instant. Sloane is 10 minutes out. Do not go inside alone. I parked in the darkness across the street, watching the diner's neon sign cast a greasy pink glow on the pavement. Sloane's black Jeep slid in beside me 2 minutes later. I'll be in the corner booth, reading a menu, she texted. You take the meeting. I'll watch your back. I walked in. The diner smelled of stale coffee and industrial cleaner. Vanessa Hart was in a booth by the kitchen, huddled over a cup. She was in her 40s, with terror in her eyes. She looked less like a wedding planner and more like a witness on the run. Noelle, she whispered, half standing as I slid in opposite her. It's me, Vanessa. Talk to me. He's a monster, she said, her hands shaking so hard she slopped her coffee. Your mother, she's just as bad. But him, Gavin, he's terrifying. What did he do? It's what he made me do. She slid a small, generic USB drive across the table. It stopped by the salt shaker. It's all in there. The emails. The contracts. What contracts? I asked, my voice low. The dual invoices. He made me write them. One for him. The real one. With the real, tiny 50-person budget. And one for you. The show one. The one with 200 guests and the padded, insane numbers. He said you were the hidden sponsor and that you demanded complete anonymity and wanted to pay a flat fee for the prestige. It was a lie so layered, so convoluted. It was almost brilliant. But that's not the worst part, she said, her voice cracking. He made me sign this. He said it was standard for sponsors. She pulled a folded piece of paper from her coat. I unfolded it. Addendum C, Hidden Sponsor Agreement. My eyes scanned the legalese until they landed on the clause. It stated that I, Noelle Archer, had agreed to pay all vendor invoices as submitted by the planner, plus a non-refundable sponsor coordination fee of 25%, payable directly to the planner. A 25% surcharge, I said, my voice dead. He said it was my bonus for being discreet, Vanessa cried, the tears coming now. But he made me kick back half of it to his LLC, in cash. He said if I ruined the surprise for you, he would destroy me. He said he'd flood my business with 1-star reviews. He'd report me to the Better Business Bureau. He'd tell everyone I stole from him. He said he'd done it before. Sloane's research, confirmed by a terrified woman in a pink-lit diner. He's a predator, I said, and he's using you. He's destroying my reputation. He's destroying your sister's wedding, she said. He's not destroying it, I said, picking up the USB drive. He's monetizing it. I slid a new piece of paper across the table. It was a pre-written affidavit Elena had drafted. This is a statement. Vanessa, it says you are providing this evidence of your own free will, that you were coerced. It protects you, and it protects this. I tapped the USB. Sign it, and the Maeve Archer Fund will hire a lawyer to represent you, for free. You will not be a co-conspirator. You will be our key witness. She read it, her eyes wide. The Maeve Archer Fund? My grandmother's, I said. She was a big believer in restoration. She signed it with a hand that was finely steady. He's having dinner with your family tonight, she whispered. At the Montrose Grill. He was bragging about it. He said he was going to close the deal. I nodded, already standing. Thank you, Vanessa. You just did the right thing. I walked out, Sloane a shadow behind me, as if on cue. My phone buzzed. It was my mother, from the family group chat. Noelle, honey, we've all been so emotional. Things have been said. Why don't you come have dinner with us? A real reconciliation. We're at the Montrose Grill. We've saved you a seat. I looked at Sloane. She gave a grim smirk. It's an ambush. I know, I said. They don't know I'm the one bringing the gun. I drove to the restaurant. It was a steakhouse, all dark wood and dimmer switches. The kind of place my father loved because it made him feel important. I saw them in the back, in a large, curved booth. My mother, Margaret, dressed to the nines. My father, Daniel, looking stern and patriarchal. Gavin, looking smug. One arm draped around my sister Tessa, who looked small and pale, and a fifth man, in a suit that cost more than my first car. My mother saw me, and her face lit up in a terrible fake smile. Noelle, you're here. She went to hug me. I sidestepped her and sat down. Noelle, my father said, in his head-of-the-family voice. Thank you for coming. We have a problem. This $60,000 unpleasantness. It's not unpleasantness. Dad, it's an invoice, I said. This is our associate, Mr. Kincaid, Gavin said, gesturing to the expensive suit. He's my corporate counsel. He's been gracious enough to help us find a middle ground. The lawyer smiled, a shark smile. Ms. Archer, your family loves you. They are just distraught. This wedding, it's a blessing, but they are feeling the pressure, as are you, I'm sure. Get to the point, I said. Right. He slid a single-page document in front of me, next to a heavy, gold-plated pen. Gavin, in his generosity, has managed to find savings. He's a wizard. This one, he's reduced the total ask from $60,000 to just $15,000. $15,000, I repeated, my voice flat. A gesture of goodwill, Kincaid said smoothly. Payable tonight. Just sign this. It's a simple release. It states you'll pay the $15,000 now, and you'll graciously absorb any future overages needed to make Tessa's day perfect. Absorb overages, I said. It was a blank check. They were trying to get me to sign a blank check on top of a fraudulent settlement. Gavin leaned in. Come on, Noelle. It's just money. This is family. Tessa was silent, staring at her lap, a ghost. I looked at them. My mother, desperate. My father, a coward. Gavin, a predator. The lawyer, a cleaner. And Tessa, a victim. I reached into my own jacket. I pulled out a simple, white envelope. It was from Elena's office. I placed it on the table on top of their agreement. What's this? My father snapped. My counteroffer, I said. I pushed it toward the lawyer. You should open it. It's a copy of a hidden sponsor addendum and a few sample emails demanding dual invoices. I believe the term is wire fraud. Gavin's face went white. The lawyer's smile froze. I also have a sworn affidavit from Vanessa Hart, I continued, my voice very, very quiet in the hushed restaurant. And the backing of the Maeve Archer Restoration Fund. So, no. I will not be paying $15,000. I stood up. I looked at my parents, at Gavin, at the lawyer, and then at my sister. I don't negotiate with thieves. I turned and walked out of the restaurant, the sound of my father sputtering my name behind me. I made it to my car. The adrenaline was so high, I was shaking. I sat there for a minute, just breathing. My phone buzzed. A new text. Not the group chat. A private message. From Tessa. He's lying. It's all a lie. He's not who he said he was. Can you meet me? Please. I'm scared. I was so wrong. I looked at the text. I typed a location. The 24-hour diner. The Peakside. Now. I'll be there in 10, she replied. I drove back. I slid into the same booth, the one that still felt warm from Vanessa Hart. Tessa rushed in 10 minutes later. She wasn't wearing her engagement ring. Her face was scrubbed clean of makeup, and she was crying. Tessa, I said, shocked. He told me not to tell you, she sobbed, sliding in. He said you were jealous. He said you'd ruin it. Ruin what? The dress. Tessa, I know about the dress. It was $8,300. No, she said, cutting me off. She pulled her phone out, her hands trembling. She scrolled to a photo. It was a picture of her, in a different dress. It was fine. It was white, but it was simple, very simple. This is my dress, she said. I bought it online, from a replica site. I zoomed in on the screenshot. The price was visible, $1,200. What? What about the Maison Delacroix dress? The Serafina? I never got that one, she said, new tears welling. Gavin and Mom took me. I tried it on. It was a dream. But then Gavin said it was too much. He said he found a better one. He said the Serafina was returned. He and Mom, they did it all. They used your card to buy it, and then they returned it for store credit 2 days later. They used the credit to buy suits for Dad and Gavin, and Mom, and luggage, for the honeymoon. The $8,300 dress I had paid for was a lie. They had bought it and returned it, keeping the value, and then planned to bill me for it again in the final invoice. Tessa, I said, that's not just fraud. I don't even have a word for that. I didn't know, she said. I believed him. I believed it was all real. The followers. The big house he was buying. It was all fake. All of it. The dress, the real dress, is a $1,200 knockoff. She looked at me, her eyes destroyed. He's a liar, Noelle. And I think Mom and Dad knew. I think they helped. I know they did, I said. What do I do? She whispered. The wedding is in 3 weeks. If I call it off, he'll tell everyone I'm crazy. He's got all the influencer people on his side. He doesn't have anyone, I said. He has a list of fake names. He has a rented model. She looked up, confused. Tessa, I said. You're in a bad spot. I'm in a bad spot. But we're in it together. You have to choose him and the lie, or me and the truth. She was quiet for a long time. Then she nodded. A tiny jerky motion. You, she said. I choose you. But, Noelle, can we do this in a way that doesn't destroy me? He's a con man, but I'm the one who looks like a fool. Please, there has to be a way to save something. I looked at my little sister. She wasn't an accomplice. She was the final victim. Okay, Tessa, I said, my voice softer than it had been in days. We'll do it your way. We won't call it off. We'll let them walk right into it. But we're not just restoring justice. We're restoring you. She put her hand on mine. Thank you. Noelle. The alliance was formed. The weak link hadn't just broken. She had defected. I was back in Elena Duran's conference room by 8 a.m. The mood had shifted. My meeting with Tessa had changed the entire operation. This was no longer just an audit. It was an extraction. Sloan Rivera and Harold Benton were already there. Data projected on the main screen. The scent of strong, bitter coffee filled the air. She's in, I said, dropping my bag. Tessa, she's defecting. She confirmed the dress fraud. They bought the $8,300 gown, returned it for store credit, and bought a $1,200 replica. They're still billing me for the original. A buy and return, Harold muttered, scribbling on his notepad. That's larceny, plain and simple. The profit margin on this thing just keeps growing. While you were flipping the sister, I was dissecting the brand, Sloan said, clicking a button. The Rocky Mountain Dream Wedding Instagram page filled the screen. I've been digging into this influencer fantasy. He has 20,000 followers. I ran a diagnostic. 19,000 of them are bots, purchased from a server in Eastern Europe. He's not an influencer. He's a ghost. She clicked to the photo of the beautiful, laughing bride, the one who wasn't Tessa. The metadata on these images, Sloan continued, tells the real story. They weren't taken on a mountaintop. They were taken at Boulder Pro Photo, a commercial studio. She flashed a PDF of an invoice. He rented the space for 4 hours. The contract specifies portfolio shoot. He paid $400 in cash. This isn't a wedding album. It's a marketing brochure for a company that doesn't exist. Harold cleared his throat, his paper-dry voice cutting through. This is all very modern. I prefer the classics. He projected a new document. It was a scan of the real catering contract, the one for 50 guests. We had this, he said, but we were missing the mechanism. How does he plan to bill for 200 guests when only 50 show up? What stops the sponsor, you, Noel, from asking questions at the reception? He zoomed in on a section of the contract. It was a standard clause. Client must provide a finalized, confirmed guest list for staffing purposes. But next to it, in the margin, was a handwritten note in an arrogant, looping script. I recognized it instantly. That's Gavin's handwriting, I said. Harold nodded grimly and read the note aloud. It says, tell parents 200 for sponsor bill. Venue max is 120. Keep seating tight to front. They'll never count. The room was silent. He knew, I said, the pieces clicking. He knew the venue's maximum capacity was 120 people. And he still billed you for 200, Elena finished, her voice like ice. That's not just padding a bill. Harold, that's premeditated wire fraud. He put his intent in writing. He's a sloppy boy, Harold said. Greedy and sloppy. The venue max is 120. He bills for 200, but his real contract is for 50. This man is a walking liability. He's also a broke one, Sloan added. She was back on her tablet. Now that we have Tessa and Vanessa, I had a new angle. I called the other vendors on the list, the florist, the string quartet, the party rental company. I got a list of 10. I called them all this morning, pretending to be a credit check agency. She held up a finger. 7 of them have not received their second deposit, which was due last Friday. She held up a second. The checks he did send to the other 3? They bounced higher than a rubber ball. As of today, 3 of those vendors are threatening to pull out. He doesn't have the cash flow. The entire wedding is about to collapse. He doesn't just want your $60,000, Noel. He needs it to cover his tracks and pay the real bills. I felt a new, colder dread. It's worse than that. He didn't just use my old card. He used my credit. Elena looked up. What? When I was at the bank, I had them run a full credit report. While I was busy tracking the 18 card, they were busy opening new ones. 2 new store cards, one from Mountain Furniture Designs, one from Modern Appliance Warehouse, opened 3 months ago. Let me guess, Sloan said. Co-signed? By me, I confirmed. The same forged signature from the family contribution agreement. They weren't just planning a wedding. They were furnishing their new apartment. The apartment Tessa told me Gavin was surprising her with. Harold was typing furiously on his little desk calculator, the paper tape spitting out. So, let's tally the grift, he mumbled. 32,000. That's his declared income. $32,000 a year. But he's got a new apartment, a Tag Heuer watch, a trip to Aspen, and he's trying to skim off a wedding. He tore the tape from the machine. I've run the numbers based on the real 50-person event. His hard costs are approximately $25,000. At the most, the invoice he sent you was for $60,000. If you had paid it, after he paid off the real, discounted vendors, he and your parents would have netted a clean $35,000 to $40,000, cash, untaxed. He's done this before, Sloane said, her voice flat. This isn't his first time. The confidence, the dual contracts, the family sponsor, it's a model. She projected a map, 2 red dots, one in Utah, one in Oregon. His 2 previous bankrupt LLCs, I found them, 2 brides, 2 ruined weddings, 2 massive trails of debt, and the one in Utah? The model was identical. An estranged aunt was brought in as the sponsor. She paid a huge, inflated bill, and Gavin and the bride's parents split the profit. He uses family dysfunction as his camouflage. Elena Duran stood up and walked to the large whiteboard. She erased everything. This is no longer a civil case, she said. It's a criminal referral. We have a pattern. We have victims in multiple states. She picked up a black marker. Harold, I want a finalized report on the $35,000 profit margin. That's our motive. Sloane, I want you to find the Utah and Oregon victims. Get their statements. The Maeve Archer Fund will pay for their time. We need to show a pattern of racketeering. She turned to me. Noelle, this isn't about your $60,000 anymore. It's not even about the wedding. Our primary objective is to save Tessa. She is now our cooperating witness. Our secondary objective is to hand the district attorney a case so perfect, so complete. They can't possibly refuse it. We have identity theft, forgery, and a multi-state conspiracy to commit wire fraud. We will use the restoration fund to make all the vendors whole, including the ones in Utah and Oregon. We will restore their faith, and we will burn Gavin to the ground legally. What about my parents? I asked. Elena's expression didn't soften. They chose to be co-conspirators. When we save Tessa, and when we expose Gavin, your parents will be what they are, the collateral damage of their own greed. The first countermove from Gavin and my parents was not an apology, it was an attack. After my exit from the Montrose Grill, they went silent for 48 hours. My $1 transfer was still the only financial transaction. My non-response to my mother's texts was a gaping void. Tessa was communicating with me via a burner phone, feeding me small pieces of information while still playing the role of the cowed, nervous bride at home. The ambush had failed, so they escalated. On Monday morning, Elena Duran's office called me. You've been served. Noelle, a courier just dropped it off. It's a TRO, a temporary restraining order. A restraining order? Against me? For what? Not against you, Elena said, her voice sharp and, for the first time, amused. It's against the event. They're trying to stop the gala. I was floored. What gala? Exactly, Elena said. We hadn't even announced it. Sloane must have a leak in their camp. Or Gavin is just that paranoid. His lawyer, Kincaid, filed a motion to stop a fictitious, defamatory charity gala being planned by you, claiming it's an act of tortious interference and intentional infliction of emotional distress, designed to ruin Ms. Tessa Archer's upcoming nuptials. He's trying to stop an event that doesn't exist yet? Oh, it exists now, Elena said, her voice turning to steel. Nora Whitcomb and I filed the permits for the Oaklight Community Hall 3 hours ago. An evening of restoration, honoring Maeve Archer's legacy of community giving. We are holding it on the same night as the wedding reception, and this this is the best gift he could have possibly given us. He just gave us a legal forum to present our evidence before the wedding. He's trying to gag you, she continued, but he just invited you to testify. The hearing is tomorrow morning. The next day, I walked into the county courthouse. It was a preliminary motions hearing, not a full trial. The room was small, modern, and sterile. My parents, Daniel and Margaret Archer, were there. They sat behind Gavin and his lawyer, Kincaid, looking like hostages, their faces pale and drawn. They were trying to project outrage, but all I saw was fear. Gavin looked confident, whispering to Kincaid, his suit perfectly tailored. He saw me and gave me a small, pitying smirk. Elena arrived, not alone. She was followed by 2 junior associates, each wheeling a dolly stacked with 3 large, hard-sided legal briefcases. 6 cases in total. Gavin's smirk vanished. "Your Honor," Kincaid began, his voice smooth and resonant, "we are here on a simple matter. My client, Mr. Pierce, and his fiancée, Ms. Archer, are on the verge of their sacred union. The defendant, Ms. Noelle Archer, the bride's estranged sister, has initiated a campaign of harassment. This culminates in a sham gala she is planning. This event has no purpose other than to defame my clients and disrupt their wedding. We are simply asking the court to enjoin this malicious event until after the wedding, to allow this family to heal." The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her late 50s, looked over her glasses at Elena. "Ms. Durand, a sham gala?" Elena stood. She was not a shark. She was a surgeon. "Your Honor," she said, her voice clear and precise, "my client is not planning a sham gala. My client is the acting signatory of the Maeve Archer Restoration Fund, a registered community trust. The event Mr. Kincaid is so afraid of is a community outreach event, fully funded by that trust." She gestured to the briefcases. "And this," she said, "is why we must have it." Kincaid's face tightened. "Your Honor, counsel is bringing in exhibits for a simple TRO hearing. This is theatrics." "Is it Ms. Durand?" the judge asked, leaning forward. "No, Your Honor. It's evidence. Mr. Kincaid has argued that our event is defamatory and has no legitimate purpose. I am simply providing the legitimate purpose." Elena nodded to one associate, who opened the first case. It was, I realized, not 6 cases of evidence. It was 3, 1 set for the judge, 1 for us, 1 for the opposing counsel. "The Maeve Archer Fund," Elena continued, "contains a community harm clause. It is triggered if the Archer family name is used to commit fraud against a community organization. We are prepared to show that Mr. Daniel Archer," my father flinched, "has, for 4 years, falsely claimed charitable donations to the Oaklight Community House, damaging their reputation and committing tax fraud. The purpose of our event is to restore Oaklight's good name and to publicly correct the record." "Objection!" Kincaid shouted, jumping to his feet. "This is wildly prejudicial. What does this have to do with my client?" "Mr. Kincaid," Elena said, "your client is the one who filed this motion. He made it relevant. He claims our event is a sham. We are proving it is a remedy." The judge waved Kincaid down. "I'll allow it, but be quick. Ms. Durand." "Of course, Your Honor." Elena opened her own binder. "To prove harm, we must also prove the conspiracy that led to it. We will show that this tax fraud was part of a larger pattern of financial abuse, all funneling to one central beneficiary." She looked directly at Gavin. "Your Honor, in this binder, you will find Exhibit A, a family contribution agreement with my client's signature, forged. Exhibit B, the bank statements from a credit card, also opened with that forged signature, and Exhibit C, a series of invoices from wedding vendors, paid with that stolen card." My mother made a small, strangled sound. "But it's Exhibit D, E, and F that are most relevant," Elena said, her pace quickening. "Exhibit D is the real catering contract for the Archer-Pierce wedding, a 50-person event. Exhibit E is the fake contract, billing for 200 guests, and Exhibit F is the guest list, 130 of whom, Your Honor, do not actually exist." Kincaid was white. This is slander. This has no bearings." "It has every bearing," the judge snapped. Her eyes on the binder the clerk had just handed her. She flipped a page. "A fake guest list?" "A ghost list, Your Honor," Elena said, "created to inflate an invoice, which was then sent to my client with a demand for $60,000, an invoice created by Mr. Kincaid's client, Mr. Gavin Pierce, in a conspiracy with my client's parents to profit from his own wedding. My father, Daniel Archer, made a sound like he'd been punched. He looked at Gavin, his face a mask of purple rage and absolute panic. "Mr. Kincaid," the judge said, her voice dangerously low. "You filed a motion claiming emotional distress on behalf of a man who appears to be committing multi-state wire fraud. You claim this gala is a sham, when it appears to be the only honest event being planned here." "Your Honor, I was not aware of these," Kincaid stammered. "Then you should have been," the judge said. "The request for a temporary restraining order is denied. Vehemently. There is absolutely no basis to stop a legitimate community charity event." She wasn't done. She looked at all of us. "And given the extraordinary nature of the evidence presented, I am issuing a court order, effective immediately, for the preservation of all financial records, emails, text messages, and documents by all parties, Mr. Archer, Mrs. Archer, Mr. Pierce, and Mr. Kincaid's law firm. Do not delete a single thing. Am I understood?" My father looked like he was going to be sick. Gavin just stared. His mask of confidence finally, utterly shattered. He had lost control. The judge banged her gavel. "We are done here." We walked out into the hallway. My parents scurried past, my mother holding a handkerchief to her face, my father refusing to look at me. Gavin and Kincaid were in a furious, whispered argument by the elevators. The story, however, didn't stay in the courthouse. A local stringer for the Colorado Springs Gazette had been in the courtroom. The next day, a small, innocent-looking article appeared in the local section. It was titled, "Community Gala to Honor Quiet Givers." It detailed how the Maeve Archer Restoration Fund was hosting an event to celebrate the spirit of true anonymous charity. It mentioned the Oaklight Community House and the importance of restoring public faith in community giving, and, in the final paragraph, it noted that the gala was being held to correct the record on recent unsubstantiated claims of donations. The phone at Oaklight, Nora later told me, began ringing off the hook. Members of my father's church, members of his golf club, all asking the same, quiet questions. "Was Daniel Archer's name on your donor list? We always thought he was so generous. Were his donations unsubstantiated?" The social pressure was beginning. The whispers had started. Fake donations? That afternoon, I got a text from Tessa. She was frantic. "The judge? A court order? My parents are losing their minds. Gavin is screaming. What did you do?" "Noelle?" I called her. "I told the truth. Tessa, the thing you asked me to do." "But a public gala," she cried. "On my wedding night. You're trying to ruin me. Everyone will laugh at me." "Tessa, listen to me," I said, my voice firm. "The gala is not about you. It's about Oaklight. It's about Maeve. I told you I would not shame you, and I will not. You will not be mentioned. Your name will not be spoken. I am only telling the truth about the fraud, about the fake donations, about the vendors." "The vendors?" "Yes," I said. "The Restoration Fund. I've already authorized the payments. The florist, the real caterer, the string quartet, the ones Gavin's checks bounced on. They're being paid in full. By Maeve. Their reputation is being restored. Just like Oaklight's. This isn't about destroying you. Tessa, it's about cleaning up the mess they made, the mess they dragged you into." She was quiet. You paid them?" "I'm making them whole," I said. "Which is more than anyone was doing for you. You have a choice. You can stay in that house with the people who lied to you, or you can come to the gala and stand with me and Maeve." I hung up, leaving her with the choice. The gala, I decided, would proceed exactly as planned. The truth had its own momentum now. At 7 p.m., 2 events began. At Oaklight Hall, the air smelled like baked bread and beeswax. The room was not opulent. It was full. People sat on simple folding chairs, adorned with small, tied bunches of wildflowers. The flowers were unruly and bright, purple, yellow, and white. They were set in mason jars on paper tablecloths. In the corner, the Oaklight Community Choir was humming, their voices a low, warm chord that settled over the room. There were perhaps 150 people, their faces open, their laughter genuine. It was a room built on reality. It was warm. At 7 p.m., at the Ravenscroft Conservatory, the air smelled like lilies and panic. The room was not full. It was empty. 300 gold-backed chairs, rented for a phantom guest list, sat in perfect, gleaming, empty rows. The flower arrangements were enormous, imported orchids and roses, and they were already beginning to look tired under the aggressive purple uplighting. A string quartet, hired to play for 200, played Vivaldi to the echoing, cavernous space. Their music was beautiful, precise, and utterly dead. There were 12 guests, my father and mother, their faces like ash, sat in the front row, isolated in a sea of gold. Gavin's phone, which he had placed on the lectern next to the officiant, buzzed. It didn't ring, it just vibrated, a low, furious, incessant rattle against the wood. At Oaklight, Nora Whitcomb stood at the podium. "We are not here tonight to celebrate a donation," she said, her voice clear and strong. "We are here to celebrate a legacy. Maeve Archer believed in this place. She believed in this community." Behind her, a simple projector screen lit up. There was no slick production. It was a video, transferred from an old drive. It was Maeve, her hair white, her hands covered in flour in the Oaklight kitchen. It was Maeve in the library, a child on her lap, her finger tracing the words in a book. It was a montage of hands serving soup, hands stacking books, hands holding the wrinkled hand of a resident. The video was not about money, it was about action. At Ravenscroft, Gavin Pierce was not watching a video. He was standing at the altar, sweating. His custom-made suit, which I had seen on the Mountain Furniture Designs credit card statement as home office furnishings, was too tight in the shoulders. He kept glancing at his phone, which buzzed again. Buzz, buzz, rattle. The sound was audible in the silence. He smiled, a wide, terrible, empty smile, at the 12 sets of eyes staring at him. He was the star of a show for which no one had bought a ticket. At Oaklight, I saw the vendors, the florist, a woman named Cynthia, had been the first to call Sloane, in tears, after Gavin's check bounced. The Maeve Archer Fund had paid her bill in full. Tonight, she was here. She had brought the wildflowers. She told me. I had to fix my reputation, to be part of something real. The caterer, the owner of Celestial Catering, the one who had written the real 50-person invoice, was here. Maeve's fund had paid him, too. He and his staff were in the back, working for free, serving the food Maeve used to cook: shepherd's pie, roasted vegetables, thick slices of bread. He caught my eye, raised a ladle in a salute, and went back to work. At Ravenscroft, in the bridal suite, Tessa was alone. She was staring at herself in a floor-to-ceiling mirror. She was wearing the $1,200 replica, the one she bought online. The satin was too shiny. The beading was glue, not thread. In her hands, she held a small, tight bouquet of baby's breath. It was the emergency bouquet Gavin had ordered that morning from a grocery store. After the original florist refused to deliver, it was already wilting. Her phone, the one I had given her, buzzed on the vanity. A text from her best friend. Sarah. T, where are you? I'm at Oaklight for your grandma's thing. It's amazing. All these people are telling stories about her. I'm crying. Maeve would be so proud of this. Tessa read the text. Then she looked at the reflection of the lonely, sad bride in the mirror. The door to the suite banged open. It was Gavin. His face was a mask of strained joy. There you are. It's time. Everyone is waiting. Tessa's voice was hollow. Everyone? All 12 of them. Gavin? His smile faltered for a second, then snapped back into place, wider, brighter. Babe, don't be like that. It's fine. It's better. Intimate is the new trend. It's chic. This is about us, not them. Tessa looked at him. She looked at his face. the lie he was telling, the lie she had wanted to believe. She saw the perfect teeth. She saw the empty eyes. She saw the con man. Clear as day. At Oaklight, I was at the podium. My voice was steady. My grandmother, Maeve, had a saying. I told the room. She said, "Grace has a spine. It means that kindness is not weakness, that community is not an asset you liquidate, it is a garden you tend." I looked at my parents, huddled in the back row, where I had assigned them seats. It means that when harm is done, you do not hide it, you do not cover it up, you restore, you make it right. At Ravenscroft, Tessa stood up. She turned her back on Gavin. She looked at the pair of $400 heels that had been her something new. Then she looked at the canvas tote bag she had brought. She sat down on the antique chaise lounge, hiked up the replica dress, and kicked off the heels. "What are you doing?" Gavin hissed. "The music is starting. That's our cue." She ignored him. She reached into the bag and pulled out a pair of worn-out, navy blue sneakers, her running shoes. She shoved her feet into them, jamming the laces into the sides. "Tessa, stop it! You're ruining the aesthetic." She stood up. The sneakers peeked out from under the hem of the dress. She looked ridiculous. She looked powerful. She dropped the wilting bouquet onto the plush carpet. "I'm not ruining it, Gavin," she said, her voice clear. "I'm leaving it." She walked past him. He grabbed her arm. "You can't. The contracts. The deposits." She ripped her arm from his grip and ran. She ran out of the suite, her sneakers silent on the marble floor. I was finishing my speech at Oaklight. "Restoration," I said, "is not about revenge. It is about choosing truth. It is about—" The main doors to the community hall banged open, hitting the wall with a crash. The entire room, 150 people, turned. Tessa was standing in the doorway. She was a vision, a bride, in a white dress, breathing like she'd just run a marathon. Her hair was coming undone, her makeup was streaked, and on her feet were the ugliest blue sneakers I had ever seen. The room was dead silent. I could hear my father's small, sharp inhale from the back. "Tessa?" She ignored him. Her eyes scanned the crowd, found me, and locked. She started walking. Then she was running, down the center aisle, past the folding chairs, past the families, past the vendors. She didn't stop until she was right in front of the podium, right in front of me. She was panting, half sobbing, but her eyes were fierce. "I can't," she gasped, her voice raw. "I can't do it, Noelle." She grabbed my hands. Her hands were ice cold. "He's a lie. It's all a lie. I was so stupid." She looked out at the silent, stunned room. "I choose you," she said, her voice rising, echoing in the hall. "I choose this." A beat of silence. Then, a woman in the front row, an old volunteer Maeve had called her battle buddy, began to clap. It was a slow, steady clap. Then another joined, and another. It was not applause for the drama. It was applause for the escape. Tessa was shaking, the adrenaline wearing off, the cold reality setting in. I unhooked the shawl from my own shoulders. It was a heavy, warm thing, knitted by the Oaklight Community Circle, gifted to me by Nora an hour before. I wrapped it around Tessa, covering the cheap satin and her bare shoulders. I put my arm around her. "It's okay," I said. "I've got you." I led her to my seat at the front table. As she sat, the caterer, the man Gavin had tried to ruin, quietly placed a steaming plate of shepherd's pie and a glass of water in front of her. Tessa looked at the food, at the warm shawl, at my arm around her. She looked at the faces of the community, who were now turning back to their conversations, giving her space, giving her grace. They were not staring. They were not judging. She picked up the fork. She was home. The music at Oaklight Hall swelled. The community choir singing a song about resilience. Tessa was beside me, wrapped in the heavy wool shawl, eating pie as if she had not seen food in a month. She was safe. She was extracted, but the operation was not over. While I was at the podium, Elena Durand had been executing the second phase. The judge's preservation order, combined with the evidence of multi-state fraud Sloan had uncovered, was enough. The district attorney, seeing a high-profile, pre-packaged case, was happy to cooperate. My phone vibrated on my lap, hidden by a napkin. A text from Elena. DA's team is moving. Warrant is active. They're en route to Ravenscroft. Search covers groom's suite, vehicle, and personal effects. Stay with your sister. I texted back one word. Acknowledged. Tessa looked up at me, her eyes still red. What is it? It's just work, I said, placing my hand over hers. Eat. The gala continued. People were mingling, sharing stories about Maeve. They were celebrating the real, 10 miles away. The fake one was being dismantled. At 8:45 p.m., my phone rang. Not a text. A call. An unknown number. I excused myself from the table, walking to the quiet corridor by the kitchens. This is Noelle Archer. Ms. Archer, this is Detective Miles with the Colorado Springs Police. I am calling at the direction of the District Attorney's Office. We are executing a search warrant at the Ravenscroft Conservatory. His voice was flat, professional. I understand, I said. We are logging items. We have recovered Mr. Pierce's laptop, several notebooks, and multiple envelopes containing cash. We also found a stack of receipts from vendors, indicating cash payments in exchange for promotional discounts. That matches our records, I said, my voice as flat as his. However, we've recovered one item of a personal nature. It was not in his luggage. It was inside his left dress shoe. It's an antique platinum ring, a women's setting. The inscription reads, "To Maeve, 1948. The air left my lungs, the fraud, the spreadsheets, the lies. That was business. This was desecration. Ms. Archer, are you there? Yes, I managed to say. Yes, I'm here. Can you verify the item? It's my grandmother's ring, I said, my voice thick. It was my great-grandfather's. He gave it to her. It was supposed to go to me. It was in her will, specifically bequeathed to me. We all thought it was lost during the estate process 8 years ago. There was a pause. The detective's voice was harder now. Bequeathed directly to you, and it was in his possession. That clarifies things. This moves from a fraud case to include felony theft and receiving stolen property. He stole my grandmother's ring, I whispered. We're going to need you to come down to the station tomorrow to make a formal identification, but a photo has been sent to your phone. Please confirm it's the item. My phone chimed. I opened the message. It was a photo, taken against a sterile evidence bag. The ring, the simple band, the small, square-cut diamond, the inscription clear even on the tiny screen. To Maeve, 1948. My hand was shaking, not with rage, not with sadness. It was the vibration of a system finally snapping back into alignment. Yes, I said. That's it. That's Maeve's ring. Thank you, Ms. Archer. That's all we need. He hung up. I stood in the hallway for a full minute. The ring, the one thing my mother had cried over, claiming it must have been accidentally donated with Maeve's old clothes, the one piece of Maeve I had truly wanted. And he had it. In his shoe. My phone buzzed again. A text message. It was not Elena. It was not the police. It was the venue manager from Ravenscroft. A woman Sloan had put on our payroll as a consultant 2 days ago. The message was short. Police are here. They are in the main hall. They are talking to the groom. The guests are watching. They are putting him in handcuffs. He's in custody. I closed my eyes. I visualized the scene. The 12 guests. The string quartet, music stopping mid-note, the imported, dying flowers, the groom, in his stolen suit, being cuffed and led out of his own reception, the end of the influencer wedding. I deleted the text. I walked back into the warmth of Oaklight Hall. Tessa looked up at me, her face anxious. You were gone a long time. I know, I said. I sat down. I put my phone away. I did not tell her. I did not make an announcement. There was no victory speech. The choir was singing again. Something quiet. I just took my sister's hand. She leaned her head on my shoulder, wrapped in Maeve's shawl, and for the first time in our lives, we just sat in the quiet. The truth was moving. It did not need me to yell. It was late, almost 11. The crowd had thinned. Nora was thanking the volunteers. Tessa was in the corner, talking to her friend Sarah, a small, real smile on her face. I was stacking plastic cups when I felt a presence. My mother, Margaret Archer. She was not the manicured, controlled woman from the courthouse. She looked ancient. Her makeup was gone. Her expensive dress was wrinkled. My father was not with her. "Noelle," she whispered. Her voice was a dry rasp. I didn't say anything. I just kept stacking the cups. "Can we talk?" "Please." In the office, I followed her. Nora's office was small, cluttered with donation binders and sleeping bags. My mother sat on a stool. I stood, leaning against the door, my arms crossed. They took him," she said. "Daniel, my husband. He called me. He called me from the restaurant. The police. They arrested Gavin. At the wedding." "I know," I said. You did this." It was not an accusation. It was a statement of fact. "Gavin did this," I replied. "You and Dad helped." She flinched. The tears came, but they were not the weaponized tears I was used to. These were the hot, ugly tears of defeat. "You don't understand," she whimpered. It was just to help Tessa. He was a good boy. He was giving her a good life. He's a con man. Mother, and you knew it. You forged my name." "It was just a form," she cried. "Your father. We just needed a little help. The deposits. And you have so much." "And the ring?" I asked, my voice dropping to a dead, cold whisper. Her head snapped up. Her face, in that moment, was a mosaic of terror. "The ring," I repeated. "They found Maeve's ring, in his shoe, the ring you lost, the ring you cried over, the ring you knew I loved." That was the blow that finally broke her. She let out a sound, a low, animal wail, and covered her face. I didn't mean for—" "Tell me," I commanded. And the confession, the final, pathetic truth, spilled out. "I took it," she whispered into her hands. "After the funeral, before the estate lawyers, I took it. I kept it." "Why?" "For fairness," she shouted, her voice cracking. "It wasn't fair. She always favored you. She left you the ring in the will. She left you the control of the fund. She left Tessa nothing. She left me nothing. Just you. Always you. So you stole it." I was rotating it," she said. The logic so twisted it made my head spin. "It was Tessa's turn. She deserved something beautiful. Gavin, he didn't have an heirloom. He wanted a real wedding. He wanted something old. I loaned it to him, to make it feel real, to make it fair." She had given my grandmother's ring, my ring, to the grifter as a prop for his fake wedding, to balance the scales, the theft, the fraud, the lies. It was all born from this festering, rotten jealousy. I looked at her, this shell of a woman, and I felt nothing. Not pity, not rage, just the cold of an audit finally completed. "Here is what happens now," I said. She looked up, her face desperate, searching for a lifeline. "There is no more history. There is no rotating the truth. There is only transparency. You and Dad will go to Elena Duran's office tomorrow. You will provide a full, truthful deposition to the district attorney. As cooperating witnesses, you will detail the forgery, the credit cards, and the agreement with Gavin. You will not lie. You will not omit. But Daniel, his reputation is gone. He traded it for a golf club membership. Second, I continued, you will liquidate. You will sell the second house. You will sell the boat. You will use that money to pay back every cent claimed in the tax fraud, plus penalties, and you will make a public donation to Oaklight, a real one, for the full amount you stole. You will restore the community. Noelle, we can't. Third, I said, cutting her off, you will both go into therapy, real therapy, with a specialist in financial abuse and narcissistic personality disorder, and you will sign a release so that I can see the attendance reports. You will do the work. I opened the door. Or what? She whispered. I looked back at her. Or I will add your names to the indictment. Elena has the file ready. Cooperate. And you are victims who made a terrible, criminal mistake. Fight me. And you are co-conspirators. Your choice. I left her in the office. I walked back out into the hall. Tessa was waiting for me, her face pale. What did she want? To talk about the past, I said, putting my arm around her. But we're not doing that anymore. What are we doing? She asked. We're going home, I said. We're going to restore. I was not interested in rewriting history. I was only interested in ending it. The next morning, at 9 a.m., Oaklight Hall was convened. It was not a party, and it was not a trial. It was an accounting. The board of the community house was there, seated in the front row. The vendors we had paid, the real ones, were there. Nora Whitcomb stood at the podium, her face set in a look of quiet determination. My parents sat in the second row. Tessa was beside me, in the front. We are here, Nora began, for the first official Maeve Archer restoration report. This meeting is to restore the truth to this community, which has been misused. I called Daniel Archer to speak. My father stood. He looked like a man who had aged 20 years overnight. His suit was impeccable, but the man inside it was ruined. He walked to the podium and unfolded a single sheet of paper. His hands were shaking violently. I am Daniel Archer, he read, his voice a rasping, hollow version of the boom I had known all my life. I stand here today to publicly confess that I have, for the past 4 years, committed tax fraud. I lied. I claimed substantial charitable donations to the Oaklight Community House, donations I never made. I used the good name of this house, and the memory of Maeve Archer, to inflate my own social standing and to illegally reduce my tax burden. It was an act of profound arrogance and theft. I accept full responsibility. As of this morning, I have resigned from the finance committee of my church. I will be making full restitution. He folded the paper and walked, unsteadily, back to his seat. He did not look at me. Margaret Archer? Nora said. My mother stood up. She did not go to the podium. She spoke from where she was, her voice thin, but for the first time in her life, it was not performing, it was just true. My husband's crime was financial. Mine was of the heart. I stand here to admit that I have used my eldest daughter, Noelle, as an emotional bank. The room was dead silent. I could feel Tessa's hand find mine. I treated her success as my asset, my mother continued, her voice breaking, and her independence as a personal threat. I was jealous. I was empty, and I participated in a conspiracy to defraud her, to steal from her, because I felt she owed me. I was wrong. I was monstrous, and I am sorry. She sat down, a small, collapsed thing. The room looked at me. I stood, walked to the podium, and placed my own notes on the lectern. I looked at my parents. I have heard these statements, I said, my voice clear and amplified by the microphone. I do not accept them as an apology. I accept them as the first installment on a debt. I do not offer forgiveness today. Forgiveness is not a switch to be flipped. It is a structure to be built. What I offer, instead, is a conditional door. I looked at them, ensuring they met my eyes. The conditions are not negotiable. 1. You will make full financial restitution to the IRS and to the Oaklight community. As my father stated, this will be paid from the sale of your second property. 2. You will provide full, truthful, and cooperating depositions to the district attorney's office regarding Gavin Pierce. You will not minimize your own involvement. 3. You will both enter mandatory individual therapy with a specialist in narcissistic personality disorder and financial abuse. You will sign a release for your attendance records. You will do the work. And 4. You will never rewrite this story. You will never tell anyone you were tricked. You will never say you were confused. You will own the truth, exactly as you stated it today. If you deviate, if you lie, if you spin this story, this door does not just close, it vanishes. I paused, letting the weight of the contract settle. This meeting, however, is not about my family. It is about the restoration of this community. I nodded to Harold Benton, who was in the back, running a simple projection. A spreadsheet appeared on the wall. It was not complicated. This is the full, transparent accounting of the Maeve Archer Restoration Fund's emergency action. We have, in the last 3 weeks, disbursed $48,000. That money was used to pay the outstanding, real invoices for 7 local vendors who were defrauded in this scheme. It funded the gala last night, and it has retained counsel for 2 other victims of Mr. Pierce in Utah and Oregon, so they may join their cases to the one here. Then, I reached into my pocket. I pulled out the small, platinum ring. Yesterday evening, this was recovered from Mr. Pierce. It is my grandmother's ring. The inscription reads, "To Maeve, 1948. I did not put it on my left hand. That was a hand of promise to another. I slid it onto the ring finger of my right hand. I wear this today not as a symbol of a promise to someone else. I wear it as a symbol of a promise to myself. A promise to choose principles over peace. A promise to choose restoration over revenge. A promise to choose myself." "My grandmother left a letter with the trust," I said, pulling an old linen paper envelope from my notes. "She asked that it be read if this clause was ever activated. She wrote this 8 years ago." I unfolded it. "My dearest Noelle, if you are reading this to the community, it is because the world, and likely our family, has tried to break you. Do not let them. Remember this. The opposite of abuse is not revenge. Revenge is just the mirror image of the wound. It is an act of despair. The opposite of abuse is restoration. It is the hard, slow, unglamorous work of building on solid ground. It is the work of making things whole. Do not burn their world down. It is not worth your time. Build yours better. Build it on the truth. The truth is the only ground that holds." I folded the letter. The restoration of this community is underway. The restoration of my family is conditional. And the man who caused this? As of this morning, Gavin Pierce has been indicted on multiple counts of wire fraud, grand larceny, identity theft, and receiving stolen property. The victims from Utah and Oregon are now co-plaintiffs in a federal case. His career as a con man is over. I looked at Tessa. She stood up, just for a moment, her voice small but clear. "I have signed the papers to annul my marriage," she said. "And I have contacted every vendor to apologize for my role in this. I will be volunteering here, at Oaklight, in the food pantry, for the next 6 months, to try and restore what I helped break." She sat down, and I squeezed her hand. I looked out at the faces, my parents, pale, Nora, nodding, the vendors, relieved, the community, whole. "For 34 years, I said, I was taught that love was a transaction, that I had to pay for my place in this family, with my silence, with my compliance, and ultimately, with my money. I am closing that bank." My voice was steady, my hand, with Maeve's ring, resting on the podium. "I do not pay to be loved. I love when the truth is paid its proper price. The debt is now clear. The restoration begins today." I stepped away from the podium. The meeting was over. There was no applause, just a deep, collective exhale, a shifting. The community choir, which had been sitting in the front row, stood, Their leader gave a small nod, and they began to sing. It was a simple, quiet song about daylight. The bright, sterile lights of the meeting dimmed, and the warm, yellow lights of the hall came up. The knot of my life, the one that had bound me to my parents' expectations, was not just cut, it was gone. In its place was a quiet, solid, and profound peace, the kind of peace that is only created by boundaries. Thank you for listening to my story. I wanted to share it, to restore myself. I am curious where you all are listening from. Let me know in the comments, and share your own thoughts on this. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to Lila Revenge Stories, like this video, and if you can, support us by hitting that hype button, so this story can be heard by more people who might need it.